Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. As the clock strikes 8:30, February 28th, 2025, episode 28.
In a world of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
Yeah. Boy, isn't that for sure. Look, if you're not subscribed at my YouTube at Brew Media, go do that now. Like, share. Of course, all comments are welcomed. I got to go over a few things before I get started. It seems like I'll prepare for a show. It'll take me a couple of hours to actually write things out and, get all my sources together and everything and put everything together. And then boom, something happens with Trump and everything gets blown out. And so now my mind is wrestling with, do I go over with what happened today or do I just plow on to what I had? You know what? I'm going to plow on to what I had. I'm tired of kind of chasing the red ball. I'm tired of chasing Trump and what he does. And I think everybody gets enough of that. Everybody has their own opinions. I certainly have mine. It's perfectly okay to disagree or agree. But tonight I wanted to go over the college moratorium being over and what effects that has on many students who listen to the government. Take a guess. Also, car sales have plummeted. We'll get into all that. Plus, I'm going to get into the top 10 distressed cities in America, and they are shocking. Also, how clueless Peter Navarro is in the Trump administration regarding tariffs. Plus, China building a massive port in Brazil to avoid U.S. ports. All this plus all your comments and questions. If you do have any questions, please ask. If I don't answer them, it's because I probably didn't see it. Understand Facebook is constantly throttling me. So take that into consideration. Look, I've already broken community standards. What did I do? Again, I didn't do anything. So strap yourself in. Grab a nice cold drink. Let's get this party started. Just a reminder, if you don't exercise your freedoms, you'll lose them, right? They're like a muscle, and you got to exercise it or you lose it. Or like your teeth, right? You don't take care of your teeth, you lose them. So you got to take care of yourself. And part of taking care of yourself is exercising your freedoms. I also wanted to talk about something that was very strange. I've noticed how a lot of friends of mine on Facebook especially have changed on me quite a bit since I've started this little venture. People that I thought were my friends, and I'm not talking about just having a difference of opinion. I mean, some people have completely abandoned me. Now, I've had other people that have come into my life and are great. It's like for every, one person that I've lost, I probably gained two more. But I got to say, I've noticed some of the people that have left me were kind of shocking, very shocked at the people that have turned their back on me. They led me to believe that, that they were interested in, the Constitution, free markets, limited government, this sort of thing. But apparently not. I guess if I'm not, either blowing a Democrat's boot or a Republican's boot, then they don't want to talk to me. They don't want anything to do with me. I just don't understand why some people can't handle, their side being criticized a little. I try to be even. I try to, come from a libertarian, independent perspective, and just some people can't handle that. It's very shocking. And then there are people who are not allowed to watch my show. Oh, thank you, Amy and Julie. Yeah, I mean, some people just, they just, I don't know. It's a very weird thing to witness. I never thought it would happen, because I always have heard this happen to people. And I gotta be honest, it's kind of shocking when it happens to you, because you're like, oh, they're your bros, but it turns out that they weren't. And what really upsets me is the people that I'm talking about. I've spent so many hours and days giving, thoughtful, insightful stuff, talking with them and all of this. And I'm just like, wow, I mean, you didn't value me, I guess, as much as I valued you. It's kind of sucky. But you know what? They've been exposed. I know who they are now. And they're X'd out. They're going to comment on my stuff. I won't even answer them. So go comment away if that's who you are. I know who you are. And I'm sure some people who have been on my page a long time recognize exactly who these people are. But anyway, I want to get into it. And I appreciate everybody for giving me the time to go over that. It's been kind of on my mind the past couple of weeks because it's been so shocking. Like, one of a good friend of mine called me a grifter. I've never even asked for anything. Messaged me, started a fight with me. I don't know where they called me a grifter. I'm the guy that donates. I'm the guy that bails people out. I've never asked for anything. You call me a grifter. Like, it's just, I don't know where that anger comes from, but I don't know. May the Lord bless them in their journeys. Anyway, it's kind of ridiculous. Thank you, Amy. Much love to you, and I appreciate that. Oh, by the way, your pictures look fantastic with your place, and I really hope it gets moved soon. Also, I'm trying out some new equipment. First I upgraded my camera. Now I upgraded some of my sound board. So hopefully that comes through a lot better tonight. I'm hoping for that. So let me get into story one. So apparently there are consequences for not paying student loan payments. I was saying how this was going to come back and hit these people right in the tuchuses, right? Now, lo and behold, we're starting to see their credit scores plummet, 100 and even 200 points. This is because of late or non-payments. Over the past few weeks, for thousands of people who have federal loans, have been giving a giant wake-up call for them. Why? Because a lot of creditor monitoring services have been sending out alerts. And now people are realizing that their credit scores are in the trash. And I said that this was going to happen because now that the moratoriums are over, the credit reporting agencies are starting to catch up and reporting delinquencies 90 days past due. See, when government first started these loan moratoriums, I was saying that these people aren't going to pay down their debt or build up their savings. I was saying that these people are going to go out and party, buy a lot of junk that they don't need. And then eventually, when the bill comes due, they're going to get caught with their pants down. Once the policy ended. And here we are. Nobody saved. And everyone got drunk on the free money from COVID spending and other things that nobody needed. And I said that once people got used to not paying, they were going to continue not to pay. And they did. Long after the policy was over, people just stopped paying their loans. But again, who created this problem? Government. Because they wanted to appeal to the younger voters. And now look what we have. Tons of young people who get their credit cards thrown into the trash bin. This is what happens when politicians, they create these policies out of good intentions, but neglect the possibilities of all the unintended consequences. Then, of course, Biden, this guy was a complete, what a disaster. Then he fooled everyone because then he pretended like he was going to forgive everyone's student loans. Remember, he started forgiving all of this college debt. Well, he forgave some people, but most people, he didn't help. And here we are. I remember seeing a lot of comments back when I was talking about this from people who paid off their student loans, like me, who felt like suckers, because, we paid our loans, and then here we were sitting back watching all this saying, hey, wait a minute. So let me get this right. I had to pay for my loans, but you don't have to pay for yours? I mean, that's completely ridiculous. And where is this in the Constitution? Government shouldn't be picking winners and losers. They should stay out of educational loans altogether. Nowhere in the Constitution does the government have the right to loan people money. That goes for businesses, homes, and of course, education. And what people don't understand is that whenever government, guarantees a loan, what happens is it actually bids up the price, because what happens is under normal circumstances, banks would compete for that loan. Well, and then what they would do is they would do a risk assessment and say, hey, either that person can get the loan or that person cannot get the loan, right? But when the government gets involved, it says, hey, we'll back some kid who's never been this, never had a job, he's got no assets to pay it back. Yeah, we're going to loan him $80,000 for college, to play volleyball or, to do something else. So what happens is it bids up prices. Same thing happens in housing. Same thing happens with corporations. So again, if we just followed the Constitution, which doesn't allow for any of this, none of this would have happened. It was really more unfair for people who didn't even go to college. Because, okay, so like, I have my education. I know Amy has her education, right? Oh, good. You know what? My sister went to the University of Miami. I went to Berkeley in California. So, that was before, California turned into what it is. But, like we paid our way, and some of us are still paying our way, right? But what about the people who didn't even go to college? Like, you didn't even go to college, and like, now you have to help pay for someone else's student loans? Like, to pay another group of freeloaders, that the government created out of thin air? And trust me, I'm not blaming students for taking advantage of these reckless policies. I'm blaming the government. I'm blaming the voters for voting in these politicians who like to give away our money. And I would like to see Congress get back some of that money that Biden put out there. And again, just like right now, Congress are not doing their job, right? By enforcing these cuts that Doge is trying to make, right? Well, back when Biden was president, Congress, again, wasn't doing their job. They should have got involved and said, hey, wait a minute. You don't have these powers, Mr. President. You can't just forgive loans, right? You don't have the power of the purse, right? You don't even have these powers. So, again, Congress has been asleep, for probably the last 2 decades. I think Congress went to sleep when we went to the war in Iraq. George Bush went into war. He never declared it, which you're supposed to go to Congress and declare war. He never did that. And Congress just kind of let Bush do whatever he wanted to do. Then they let Obama do whatever he wanted to do. Then Trump, then Biden, now Trump again. And it's like, we have 3 branches of government for a reason, right? So we don't have central planning, okay? Because like libertarian philosophy, we're not into central planning. Even though some policies we might agree with, right? Like obviously cutting government, right? Who's not for that? But, we have 3 branches for a reason, and that's for checks and balances and stuff like that. So we need to pressure Congress into doing their job. And I've been consistent. I've gotten into so many, like, I don't want to say arguments, but disagreements with friends of mine over this issue. Because they'll say, well, what about when Obama did this? Or, Bush did that. And I says, yeah, I complained then too. Like, for me, it's regardless of party. It doesn't, if a libertarian did it, I would complain, right? Because, again, if you're not following the Constitution, right, it eventually will be abused by another party or another person. Like I was explaining Doge. And what happens when a Democrat gets power again, right? Right now you have Elon Musk in there. And again, we can trust him, we cannot trust him. It doesn't even matter. What if a Democrat gets in and puts in George Soros, right? Are the same people who support Doge with Elon Musk, are they going to like George Soros in there? Or what about Nancy Pelosi? What if they put Nancy Pelosi in that position, right? Are you going to be for that? Like, we got to look past being greedy right now, right? We got to look at the big picture. And that's why you follow the Constitution, because it's got guardrails. It limits the power of government from doing stupid things like forgiving loans. So who wouldn't be trading in paying their bills for buying something else more fun? Maybe they blew their money on taking a vacation. Maybe they bought a more expensive car. Maybe you were able to get things that you couldn't have gotten had you paid your college loans. Pot, blow, chicks, drinks. Life's good, right? When you don't have no bills, right? Maybe you went body surfing, right? Maybe you laid out on the beach and had a good time, right? Because you didn't have to go to work. You had no bills. This is what happens whenever government creates a program or a subsidy. It distorts the market and redirects limited resources, which squanders savings and the limited supply of goods that we have. Had the government not getting involved in college loans, then the prices of the loans would have been dirt cheap. Look, when we went to college, it was a lot cheaper, right? And, if we had parents, like my grandmother was the first one to, she was the first one to go to college. She got a master's degree, which, you had to work hard back then to get a master's degree. And, actually, I only have one picture of my grandmother, and it's her walking across the aisle with her degree. And I'm so glad I have that photo. But, what did she pay for college? Compared to today, it was dirt cheap. You could work, a part-time job when she was, went to college, and she could have paid for a whole college. Now you need to work 2 or 3 jobs, just to pay the darn thing off. And that loan can go on forever depending on how you pay it back. The reason why we have so much BS courses also is because the government subsidized them. Take away the subsidies, and all this wasted energy and money gets redirected to more fruitful areas of the economy and schooling. So I wanted to go over that. I wanted to go over, all these college loans that are going belly up with these kids who, the government gave them the bad habits. The government taught them, hey, go hang out, go party, go have a good time. Don't worry about it. We got you. But once again, the government made promises they couldn't keep. These people got caught out there. Now they all have bad habits. They think it's okay not to pay their loans. And guess what? They just lost a few hundred points in their credit score, right? It's not cool, to start out life with a busted credit score, right? One day you're going to want to get a girlfriend or whatever, or a boyfriend, right? And you don't want to be like a loser. Oh man, oh honey, can you loan me money for a pack of whatever or whatever you're doing? It's not cool, right? So my advice to young people, look, don't take out loans, right? Try and afford things that you can pay for, right? Save your money, right? If you have to buy a beater car, buy a cheaper car, right? Don't level yourself up with debt just because you see the kid up the road doing it. Save your money. Be smart. Invest it. Find people like myself. Ask them questions. I'll show you where to park it, right? Park your money where you know you'll have some savings and a future. So when you get older, you don't have to rely on Social Security, right? And you won't be on the Social Security trap that people like my mother and aunt are on. Also, I wanted to go over some other data points that are in this economy that show that we are definitely not in the golden age. Another thing that we saw happen was new car sales dropped pretty substantially in January. In fact, car sales fell by 25% month over month. And, you know, if you thought the economy couldn't get worse, well, here we are. New auto sales falling through the roof. We now have such a huge surplus in new car inventory sitting on the lots. They have over 14% more cars collecting dust on the lots right now than they did this time last year. You know, you don't think about it, but that's actually tens of thousands of cars not being moved. So actually, just like the housing market, taking it on the chin, now we're starting to see autos taking it on the chin as well. I mean, we literally have the same figures in housing working in tandem as cars. They're both at 14%. What is the odds of that? With extra supply than we did last year. I mean, what a coincidence. This shows you that people cannot afford homes and cannot afford cars. And I believe we will see a slide in prices going down. But at the same time, we're going to see the maintenance, insurance and taxes, HOAs, all that are going up. And that's stagflation. And I have been predicting stagflation for the past 3 years. But here's the thing, no worries, because Jerome Powell says he has a plan to fight stagflation. And when Jerome Powell was asked in his last Fed's meeting, he was asked, hey, do you have a plan for stagflation? And Jerome Powell says, the plan is not to get stagflation. Well, what that really means is he really doesn't have a plan. Yeah, what are we going to say here? So think about this. Auto dealers still have new inventory since 2023. And they're starting to give out big discounts. So look, if you're in the market for a new car, right, and you're looking to save some money, now would be the time. You know, I remember, I actually know people who have done this. And I was warning them. I says, no, just wait. You know, use your car a little bit longer. You know, but nobody can listen. I remember during the pandemic, people were running out. This is right at 2022. And buying cars that were way over sticker price. The FOMO. You know, fear of missing out. You know, they were getting loans that were $1,100 to $1,200 per month. I mean, could you imagine getting a car loan for $1,100 to $1,200 a month? You know, now you could buy those same cars on the lot 30 to 40% less. You know, the government gave the impression that the money train wasn't going to end. You know, and this is why. They told people, oh, I don't have to pay my rent. Oh, I don't have to pay my mortgage. Oh, I don't have to pay student loans. What? I don't have to go to the office either, and I can just sit home and let the COVID money, rain on me? What possibly could go wrong with that scenario? And I was saying back then it was going to backfire, and it did backfire. Now the economy is completely screwed up thanks to the central planners in D.C. and the Federal Reserve. I mean, just from a free market perspective, or just basic common sense, why should a group of people sit around the table, decide what the interest rate of money is, decide how much money should be worth, right? What types of loans they should give, like these people around the table, they're the holy ones who could decide that? And from a libertarian perspective, I want currencies to compete, right? I want the market to figure out the price of money, right? The way it used to be in this country, right? Where one bank would compete with another bank, and each bank had their own, like basically every state or city had its own currency, and they could compete with each other, right? And different banks gave you different interest rates, right? And different types of loans, right? And so it was a much better system than the oligarchy, one shoe fits all system that we have now. And now we're starting to see all the dominoes starting to fall again with the delinquencies rising in credit card debt, mortgages, cars. I mean, like I said the other week, I know somebody who had their car repoed, and other loans are defaulting at an alarming rate. Little by little, we are seeing people get hit with the reality that we are certainly not heading for a golden age, but rather a rusty age, which, by the way, just for the record, gold doesn't rust. Thank you. Yeah. Well, now I have a Nissan Altima. It's one of my cars is a Nissan Altima, I bought it before the pandemic. It's a 2018, and it still runs good. It's a great car. Now mind you, my brand new SUV, I have a Yukon Denali. That thing's in the shop. So go figure. So my new truck is right now getting $4,000 worth of repairs, right? Has no mileage on it. It's basically brand new, but yet it's got $4,000 in damages. Meanwhile, my 2018 Altima, that thing runs like a clock. No problems with it. I also have my 67 Caddy. I could go outside right now, start her up. She fires right up. Runs great. I don't know. I mean, sometimes, you buy a car, it's a lemon. You really don't know. I've had extremely good luck with cars. I just happen to have one of mine right now. I feel like I got burned a little bit. But, it happens. I'm certainly not happy about the $4,000 bill that I got. But, look, thank God I could pay it. What about somebody, like, this is my point. Like, what about, like, I'm trying to teach the young kids. Like, if you're young and you get hit with a $4,000 bill, right? I mean, what do? Do you just forfeit the truck, right? Let's say if you have payments on it, right? What do? That's what I'm trying to tell them. Make sure you have a rainy day fund. Make sure, right, if you're going to buy a home, right, that you have a little nest egg put away just in case that bad thing happens. And trust me, if you own a home or you own a car, the bad day will come, right? So people who are smart, who, put a few dollars away, a rainy day fund, right? They're going to be fine. The people who don't, right, and they play Russian roulette and they think every day is going to be a great day and the government's going to save me, you're going to get caught, just as we see a lot of these people. I bought Kicks in 2007. I like better. Sentra. Oh, what did you get? A Nissan Sentra? Oh, that's a good car too. That's just like the Ultima. That's pretty cool. Small world. My Ultima is triple black on the inside, black on the outside. It's pretty cool. But that's awesome. What a small world, right? So now let me go into my next story. So because the economy is in trouble, I wanted to bring up, and this is pretty concerning, the top 10 most distressed cities in America. And unfortunately, 4 of the cities happen to be in Florida. Now, here's the deal. Florida reminds me a lot of New York in a sense that, It all depends on where you get the data from, right? So like, you could be in the west side of New York and it's completely different than the east side of New York, right? Anybody who's been to New York or from Jersey, right? There's a complete difference from, getting data from the Jersey Shore, versus, let's say Newark, right? I mean, it's completely different. But Wallet Hub just released their list, and what they look at are things like credit score, accounts that are in distress, meaning that they're in forbearance, or they have their payments deferred. They look at the number of bankruptcy filings, how many people are searching for new debt, right? Or to refinance loans. And they add up the weighted averages in each city using all the metrics to calculate the overall score. And here's the list. Houston, Texas, number 1. Atlanta, Georgia, number 2. That's right by me. I'm an hour away from Atlanta, Georgia. Jacksonville, Florida. Dallas, Texas. Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte, I'm right in the middle of Charlotte and Atlanta. I love it because I'm like the hidden gem in between both. Orlando, Florida. San Antonio, Texas. Tampa, Florida. Miami, Florida. And Austin, Texas. So the thing that pops out to me out of all these cities were that they were all the COVID darlings during the pandemic. Where people, if you really think about it, people were willing to pay 10, 15%, even 20% above listing price. And they bidded up prices to ridiculous levels. And it was all the FOMO, fear of missing out, and cheap money that fueled all that spending. Really, and you know what, I'm not even going to get into, COVID lockdowns or any of that because I've already gone over that stuff. And so what happened was a lot of Americans racked up tons of debt. And so here we are now with lots of financial distress and people in horrible situations, all because they couldn't rationally think of the consequences of what they were doing, right? So again, I really like to get to the young people because like when you're older, you should know this stuff. Although older people can make a lot of mistakes too. But the younger people, look, if you see something for sale, right? Don't offer them more than the listing, right? You offer less. Let me give an example. So I'm doing a renovation right now on one of the houses that I'm working on. And because I'm going to sell it soon. And I'm buying lighting for the house. Like the place is painted. So now I'm going to put lighting. And so I like to put, higher end stuff for lighting, right? I don't go to Home Depot and Lowe's for that. I go to actual lighting stores, a lighting place for this. So like I'm in there, I'm talking to the woman. She's dealt with me a couple of times. She knows the deal, right? And so they had a light in there. I looked at it today. It was $4,500. I looked at the light. I said, I'll give you $3,000. And she looked at me. She started smiling. She goes, how about 36? I says, how about 32? She goes, how about 34? I go, how about 33? All right, 33, she says. I says, no tax. So, I got a lot of money off there. What, $1,200-1,300? I got $1,300-1,400 off when included with the sales tax and everything. But see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, we have to be smarter as people who, this is another thing, as people who buy stuff, right? If you're, again, we have to be smart, right? Don't fall for it, right? You have to be willing to walk away. And that goes with any negotiation, right? Even a negotiation that we've seen play out today on TV. Both sides have to be willing to walk away. It's a strategic negotiating skill that you build over time. As a salesperson, I used to teach sales all the time, right? You got to know when to hold them and fold them, right? And so, so what I'm trying to explain is, just ask. You cannot be hurt by asking. You'll be surprised at the response that you'll get. Anyway, I'll be getting that light Monday, hopefully Monday, because they got to, get it to me. They're going to actually deliver it for me for the same price. Free delivery. So they're going to deliver it to me. I'm going to check it out and make sure that it's all good on Monday. But so anyway, so Americans moved and racked up tons of debt. And here we are now with lots of financial distress and people in horrible situations because they couldn't rationally think. They drank the Kool-Aid. Only this Kool-Aid is bitter. Just to put this into perspective, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, and Miami all tied, basically getting a score of 67.2 out of 100. That means that 18% of all residents in those cities have some kind of financial distress. That's really horrible. That's the highest percentage in the nation, and also the highest numbers of distressed accounts per person. Also, talking about Florida, there's another, there were so many stories that happened in the past 24 hours. It makes this job so hard because there's so much I want to go over. So, because we're talking about Florida, I'm going to talk about DeSantis. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but he was talking about installing his wife as the governor of Florida. So anyway, Byron Donalds, I believe he's a congressman of Florida. He got like, thank you, Amy. I knew you'd enjoy that story. Who got like 0% in the Republican primaries, just threw his hat in the ring to be governor of Florida. Well, once Ron DeSantis heard this, he was at a press conference yesterday, and he was talking about how he got, the most votes in a Republican, for Republican governor. And he said, look, if my wife ran, she'd get even more votes than me. Now, I'm not from Florida. I don't know much about Mrs. DeSantis. I hear she's a really lovely woman. I kind of would like to get your perspective from Florida. You like Byron better. Okay. I like Byron too. I don't know those two very much. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out down there in Florida. But also another story that happened was, and this was part of the reason for DeSantis's press conference, was the Tate brothers were allowed to leave Romania, and these two, they were indicted in Romania. They had their passports revoked. They weren't allowed to leave. They were going to go to trial because of raping girls and trafficking young lady, very young. So what happened was DeSantis, during that press conference, came out and said, hey, look, I knew nothing about these two coming to Florida. And he said that, Florida doesn't want people like that in the state. And I don't blame him. Who wants a bunch of pedophiles in our state? And I can't believe that I had friends that were more mad at DeSantis for saying that than the two pedophiles that were just let in. I mean, we're kicking illegals out. Why are we letting these two back in? Well, it turns out that these two apparently are friends with the Trump administration, and somebody on the Trump team had let these two in. They pressured Romania to let these two in. And it's like a whole mess. And so Ron DeSantis was talking about it. He's like, look, yeah, I knew nothing about this. He said, I wouldn't have let him in. And I wish my governor would have came out and said, yeah, don't come here either. Like, who the hell wants a bunch of pedophiles? Those brothers said Trump wants them. Trump said he never said. Well, Trump said he knew nothing. He knew nothing about it. But then there were documents released that showed that it was the Trump team that actually pressured Romania to allow those two to leave. So there's actually a document trail that, again, maybe Trump had nothing to do with it. But I have to say, the people around Trump, those are the, look, again, Trump does a lot of things with good intentions, but man, the people around him, they are the problem. And, this is the problem. And Trump's legacy is getting destroyed by these people. Look, okay, I didn't want to talk about it, but I have to now. Look at today. Go back and look at what happened. Everything was going fine. Everybody was getting along. And what happened? Trump got along with Zelensky. They were fine. Up until Vance threw a grenade right in the middle of the room and attacked Zelensky. And Zelensky was like, hey, wait a minute. You're talking about diplomacy, but, we signed an agreement with Russia back in 2018, and they broke that agreement. And so what are you talking about? And then, Vance said, oh, you're disrespecting us and all this. No, he wasn't. He was just asking a question. And then that fired up Trump, right? Then Trump sees Vance get upset. So Trump got defensive of Vance, but it was really Vance's fault. Everybody has to go back and look at where the fight started. Again, I believe Trump went into that meeting with good intentions. I believe Zelensky went across the world. Of course he doesn't want this war to continue. All Zelensky wants is some agreement. He wants an agreement that these people aren't going to take the rest of his country, And when Zelensky, and again, I'm not defending Zelensky. I'm just saying what happened in this meeting. That, Zelensky was trying to point out that during the Obama administration, Putin took over Crimea, which is part of, well, it used to be part of Russia, but then Russia stole it. And Zelensky said, hey, look, during Obama, Trump, Biden, now Trump, they've been attacking us the whole time. Nobody has stopped them. All those years, nobody has stopped Putin. So Zelensky is saying, hey, we need some assurance. We need some protection, right? Because they can't do it. Obviously, they're not going to beat the Russians without significant help. And it was J.D. Vance who started that fight. If you go in with your eyes and ears open, and watch it in slow motion, you can see the point where J.D. Vance threw a grenade right in the middle of that, blew that whole deal up. And why? Why did Vance do that? Because, again, Vance is trying to be a superstar. Everybody's missing the big picture. First off, Elon has been stealing the thunder from Vance. Elon has really been more of a vice president to Trump than Vance. This was Vance's first time he spoke up. Think about it. Vance has been very quiet in the Oval Office around Trump. He's loud on the internet. There he talks a whole bunch of mess. But I'm saying, in official duty, the man has been silent. Well, now, he finally got a chance to speak. And I'm telling you, he blew that whole deal up. And I'm hoping, for the sake of the world, that those two men, they should get Vance out of there, get those other people out of there, they're clowns. Get Trump, get Zelensky in a room, get Putin in a room, and work this damn deal out. He needs to get these people out of there. Those three men need to get together. Yeah, Vance wears eyeliner. He does. He probably walks around with a purse too. Talking about trainees. But I'm telling you, it's the people around Trump that bring Trump down the worst. And that's the saddest part of this whole administration. Vance was just away in Europe. Well, wherever he was, well, he didn't go to Ukraine because Zelensky said, hey, were you in Ukraine? And Vance said no, because Vance has never been to Ukraine, right? And so I think it was completely disrespectful for Vance to talk about the conditions of Ukraine. He hasn't even been there, right? He's giving his opinion. Like, I haven't been there. I can't say what those people have been through. Just like I can't say what Israel has been through or Gaza. I can see it. I have an idea, right? But I really don't know what all these people have been through. And then the subject evolved into like, Zelensky wasn't, wearing a suit. And it's like, have you ever seen the president of India go to the White House? He looks like he wears a smock. He looks like he wears, like what my grandmother used to wear, those muumuus. Remember the muumuus, right? My grandmother used to wear a muumuu. That's like what the president of India wears. He don't wear a suit and tie. The Saudis, they don't wear suit and ties. Elon Musk, the other day, he had a hat on, a t-shirt. His son picked his nose and wiped it on the Resolute desk. It's right there. Everybody can see it. Nobody said a word about that. That was perfectly okay. The kid, and then Elon's son, one out of the 700 that he has, he also told the president to be quiet. His dad was speaking. Nobody said anything about that. It was perfectly okay for Elon's son to be in the Oval Office, say to Trump, quiet, my daddy's talking. That was okay. This wasn't, but that was okay. And why? Because it's all about, fighting the other. See, I'm not on either side. So I don't care about scoring points. When I call out this stuff, I'm not trying to score points. So I'm coming from a very neutral place. But, let's at least, kind of be a little objective when we look at this stuff and not be so partisan, right? So what's the most important thing? Our feelings or peace in the world? Let's work for peace. Let's figure out a way that people stop killing each other, right? Get us out of there, obviously, right? We don't want the U.S. bogged down in another foreign war. But at the same time, you can't allow Russia to just take over everything. Bibi Netanyahu, he's been to the White House without a suit on. I mean, he wears a jacket, but he's got a t-shirt underneath. Nobody says anything about that. And he's the biggest pimp on the street. We give him more money than anyone else. Nobody says a word. Because again, it's all about playing favorites, trying to own the Republicans or the libs, and it gets tiring.
Bobby, you play blackjack. He's a great blackjack player, this guy. Bones used to play blackjack over at the Trump Casino. I love this guy. Bobby, Bones, listen, great show. I'm on my way to Florida.
That's right, Amy.
Good night, Bobby Bones.
Thank you.
It happens. Enjoy the weekend, folks.
Thank you. Yeah, that's true, Amy. Elon's son said, you're not the president, my daddy is. Yeah, I mean, again, nobody said anything about that kid being completely disrespectful. And Elon didn't correct them, right? He didn't clean the desk, right? When the kid wiped his nose, he picked his nose and wiped it on the desk. He didn't clean it, right? He got to walk in there with his bowl cap on, his t-shirt, wore black sneakers, right? Again, nobody says anything. So really, it's not about what people were wearing today. We really have to look at the flamethrowers that are around Trump, the Elons, the Vances, all of these characters that get a pass that are really hurting Trump. And again, if you support Trump, you should be mad at these people. These people are hurting your president. They're hurting my president. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of these characters coming in and hurting our president. Again, I might not have voted for Trump, but damn it, I want him to win. This would have been great for our country. And that Vance, I hope Republicans wake up to that guy. He's another snake. And I hope he gets what's coming to him. Because of him, there are going to be a lot of people now dead, literally dead, in Ukraine and Russia because of what he did today. And it's disgusting, and that should be the story tonight, but it won't be. Yes, Amy, I agree. Yeah, that's another great point. X should be in school. He shouldn't have been at the White House. And also, did you hear this other story? There was a woman down in Florida. She had sex with Elon. She got pregnant. Elon made her hide for a whole year. She had to quit her job. She had to leave her family, right? This just happened. It was all over the news. And again, look, everybody's allowed to live their life as they choose, right? But people are looking up to this guy, and I have to be honest, the way he treats women, he's a complete and total, let me use the word right, scumbag. Again, we're idolizing a complete pig. He's a pig. And so, basically, this woman was in hiding for the entire year. And finally, she was going crazy. She says, this is ridiculous. I want to see my family. I want to see my friends. And she finally came out, and she's going for full custody. And, talking about illegals, Elon overstayed his visa. Nobody talks about getting rid of him. He's from South Africa. What about all the babies he's having in America, right? They would be considered anchor babies. Nobody says anything. See, because it's Elon, thank you. Look, because it's Elon, he can have all the anchor babies he wants, right? But when a Mexican does it, they're Mexican, you got to get rid of them, right? Well, hey, if that's the law, why are we doing the same law for him? Stick him in Gitmo. See how he likes it. And 12 babies. And Amy, those are the 12 that we know about. Think about that. So when I heard that story that he hid this woman, I'm saying to myself, how many other women does he have hidden? This is a guy who runs out and tells other males not to have babies because they're expensive. It's like, don't have children, And meanwhile, he's out there populating, the whole planet, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But if you're going to make all these children, why don't you step up and be a father? Now, I'm sorry. Elon has more money than he even knows what to do with. And the fact that he's hiding these children, he's not in their lives. He treats these women literally like trash. And that people idolize that. Why? Because he was successful in business. Just because you're successful in business doesn't make you a good person, right? And it doesn't mean that because Elon is supposedly working in the government for free, that he has good intentions. That's another misconception that people have. I was just doing some research today, and do you know Elon, again, he was handed $38 billion, $38 billion between federal and state in corporate welfare. That's what he got. Last year alone, he got over $6 billion from the government, right? So, here we are, paying this guy who's probably worth, who knows how much he's worth now, right? Giving him all this welfare, all this corporate welfare, right? And he's going to cut food stamps. He's going to cut, all of these other programs. And fine. Hey, we can make an argument for that. When is he going to cut his subsidies? When is he going to cut his welfare, right? So start with yourself. If you're willing to cut government, which I am willing to do, why doesn't he go to Congress and say, look, you know what? I'm wealthy enough, right? He's the richest man on the planet. Does he need corporate welfare? I mean, come on. Any one of us could be successful if they gave us $38 billion, right? If you got $6 billion, you're telling me you couldn't be successful too? So that's part of the BS that the media doesn't talk about. And so again, I'm not trying to dump on Elon, but this guy, he's not that innocent. And let me tell you, part of the rare earth mineral deal with Ukraine has a lot to do with Elon, because the number one mineral that's in Ukraine is lithium. What do you use lithium for? Car batteries, right? Well, who has a car battery company? Tesla is the biggest car battery manufacturer on the planet. So, again, you have to think those rare earth minerals, just like oil, doesn't go to us. It goes to our corporate masters. So when they're making these deals and you're like, oh yeah, we're going to get back all this money. We never get it, right? We never get that money. All of that goes to the corporate masters, who then take those materials, the gas and oil, all the metals, and then they sell them on the market, right? And that's what they're going to do. They're going to sell them back to us. So when you're sitting there like, oh, this is great, we're going to get paid back. You're not going to get paid anything. Just understand, you're going to be sold that stuff by the corporate masters who get to take that stuff and use it. Oh, Amy, you're a pisser. That's so funny.
Elon here. The American people weren't supposed to know that, buddy.
So, that's pretty funny. So anyway, well, look, I wanted to go over tariffs, because Peter Navarro, another person who's around Trump, who just is screwing up. But look, I've already done an hour. So look, I'm going to call it a night. I might jump on tomorrow night. I got to see how I feel. I really had a long week this week. I know a lot of other people have as well. I just want to say I appreciate everybody. Thank you again so much for sharing your time with me. It really means a lot. And understand that everything I do, it really does. It comes from the heart. It comes from the spirit. And that's where it's from. And I really hope everybody has a great night. And if I don't see you, have a great weekend. God bless and take care. And thank you so much.